indeed. It was necessary.
Others we
I
were
think
meeting at
last we
every.
met in that Vivanta.
Yeah,
Last
we
we
were
met at Vivanta.
lovely venues and lovely occasions and so
I
much of
know,
learning.
missing
I know
all.
we're missing out on all now. That's
Absolutely.
what lot of meetings we are missing out on that. But it's okay. At least we are there online and we can join and we can learn more.
But
Of
it's
course.
a make do arrangement.
Yeah, that is true. It cannot last. I don't know why Pulda is not able to join. Hello, Pulda. I sent you the link. Can you press on that and join, please? Yeah. What is it saying? Just press on that and you will be able to join. No, you forget the app. Just press on the link. This is one problem with technology.
These links and then the network. I'm just praying that we are just moving from our Vodafone to Geo, and today only they had to decide to do the migration. So I told them, don't do anything right now. I
Here is
haven't
better,
downloaded.
I think. Here is better.
Yes.
Hi, Moshmi. Babul sir is here. This is you. Switch on your video. This thing. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. I did it. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear you. We can see
Okay.
you.
Yeah, good evening.
Uh,
Good evening.
Good
So
evening.
happy to see all of you. And yes, I was hearing that there's so much of learning and true, sir, what
Are you
to
able to
take,
join
what
now?
not to take.
Yes. Very
I
stressful.
mean, very, very stressful. And then at times you feel
I
you
sent
really
you one
don't know where
paragraph.
you are.
Respected sir, please join
Yes.
these things.
And you feel guilty. Did I do something wrong? And then it's
Ah,
everyone is going. It's students,
You should not
teachers,
be like that. Acha, I'll just
everyone.
yeah.
Vikram.
I think there's too much of
Vikram.
information now floating,
Overdose.
overdose. Absolutely. I think some we need to concentrate on what we can take and what we can process and what will be good for our future. I think
But
we need.
sometimes things are marketed so well, you want to attend, and then you realize it has been purely a waste of time. I
True,
mean,
sir.
and they ask you to register in advance so that
Yeah.
you'll get the link, and you don't want to
Hmm.
miss out, so you register. And national education policy is the buzzword and the mantra,
Yes.
and
But I don't think that any of us have been apprised so well of a national policy as NEP 2020. I think, we know it now like
by heart.
backwards.
Yes, yes.
True.
Salty in the meat. So why is he saying that?
There were so many, webinars on
I'm sending you
2020 NEP
Yes.
Okay.
that we know all it. I hope it's implemented finally.
Or it will be all talk and no show.
I know. I hope not. There's a lot of, investment going on as, in the teaching fraternity.
Yes. But you never know what, each day throws another bombshell at us with respect to our government, with respect to so many things around us. We are
True.
just. I hope. I mean, I know. I'm sure you knew Geeta ma'am from Hope Foundation. She passed away yesterday.
I know. So
So sad.
shocking, so
Yes,
sad.
yes.
Hello, sir. Good
And
afternoon,
she
sir.
was like one of the pillars of Hope Foundation.
Just waiting 1 minute for Mr. Chatterjee to join. Good afternoon, sir. We're waiting for Mr. Chatterjee to join. Oh, he's joined. Wow, wonderful. Utpalta, can you please unmute yourself? Thank you so much. Sheila, start, please.
Suman, I seem to have come, but the audio is very low. I have no idea why.
Oh, I think all of us need to mute ourselves so that we could be heard properly. Kindly unmute yourselves, and when requested, please unmute yourselves. Thank you, everyone. Sheila, please start.
Yes. Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. Today's webinar is about choosing the right preschool for your child. What's more about the topic? We have with us our eminent Honorable ex-Sheriff. Welcome, sir. We also welcome Mr. John Andrew Bagul, Founder Principal, South City International School. We welcome you, sir, to the session. I would like to introduce our moderator for today's session, Mrs. Suman Sood ma'am, Director of Teaching. We also get the opportunity to welcome our CEO, sir. We also have among us Vijaya Chaudhary. Vijaya Chaudhary ma'am, Principal, BDM International School. Welcome, ma'am. To join Valley World School. Once again, heartiest welcome to all the dignitaries. Now, may I to start the proceedings? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Can you please mute yourselves, all of you, because the audio is not being audible. So I would like to. Hello, there is. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay. I think there is something going on here. Hello, am I audible to all? Hello. Good afternoon. Hello. I'm audible. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mr. Bagul and Mr. Utpal Chatterjee, our eminent speakers. And I heartily welcome our CEO, Mr. Gupta.
আবার একটা চ্যাট বক্সে দেখতে হ্যালো স্যার yes Sir, I am Paramita Roy from Bijagar branch. Good afternoon. But I can't hear your voice, sir.
Hello? Am I audible now?
Am I audible?
Thank you so much. And I request our CEO to say a few words of welcome. Mr. Gupta, please.
Ma'am, feedback is coming. We can't follow you.
Can't follow?
No, ma'am. Feedback is coming.
Vikram, just check why is this happening.
Ma'am, now it's all
Ma'am, it's
right.
okay now. You please continue.
Okay, thank you. Sir, Mr. Gupta, sir? Sir is there? Vikram, just check. Hello?
Ma'am, I think sir has left the room.
Sir has left the room. Okay. Hello, ma'am. So will you please say a few words of welcome for our dignitaries? Vijay, ma'am. Please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Utpal Chatterjee, sir, Mr. Bagul. We welcome both of you wholeheartedly to our school virtually today. We are indeed honored to have both of you, and we would love to hear from you. We are all waiting. Instead of wasting any more time, I think I would just welcome wholeheartedly both our eminent speakers to this session. Thank you, Mrs. Sood, for giving us this opportunity to hear to both of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining, everyone. And first of all, the topic, that is the Right Start School. I think this topic is something which we need to really explore, because the first school that children join is something which is very important, and all parents, they really work hard to understand and to see which would be the first school that the parents would join. So while exploring this topic, who better with us than Mr. Bagul and Mr. Utpal Chatterjee to give us their viewpoints and to let us know, whether the parents are doing the right exploration, and what things they need to explore and what things they need not explore. So these are the two issues which I think, when we are thinking of a school for our children, it is sometimes we are just looking at the infrastructure, which may be important and may not be very important also. But there are other things which I feel are more important, like curriculum, pedagogy, what kind of learning the child gets, what kind of the teachers are there, whether the teachers are trained or not trained, whether the place is safe and hygienic. So these are few of the things which we need to surely check. And also there are various mindsets which parents have. So we want to bust a few myths of these mindsets, like few things which they think are very important and which we feel may not be important. So that is going to be our topic of discussion. So in the beginning, I would request Mr. Bagul to say a few words. And before he says, I would like to introduce him formally. I love these introductions because there is so much to talk about these wonderful people that have agreed to be with us, and we are really fortunate and grateful to them. So let me read out Mr. Bagul's entire profile, which is very condensed, of course. So Mr. John Andrew Bagul, MSc B.Ed, is the founder principal of South City International. He has completed more than 30 years in the education field in various capacities. After completion of his education in Pune, he co-authored a book on environmental biology for students of first year BSc. Recently, he has co-authored a series of books on general knowledge for school students classes 1 to 8. So, and he moved on to the Gulf to teach at Al Ryan International Schools, Abu Dhabi, which follows the ICSE and O-level curriculum. He later was the vice principal of North Valley School, a semi-residential school in Aurangabad. He has been honored and awarded for exemplary leadership in the field of education by the Amity University in 2017. He is very passionate and sensitive towards the need of differently abled children. He has spearheaded the addition of NIOS in his present capacity as principal. Widely traveled, he maintains a futuristic and global approach towards education. He has established lasting ties with schools in Bangalore, China, UK, Australia, and Barbados, USA. He is an excellent orator, a philanthropist, and a man with vision. His endeavor to take the school to the highest echelon has been successful. His passion includes teacher development and student empowerment. He encourages students to get involved with various NGOs in the city. He loves to speak at public functions on topics close to his heart. He has everyone, please mute your microphones. Kindly do that for 1 minute, please. Let me read out the CV and then we can continue with the program. He has been honored and awarded for exemplary leadership in the field of education by the Amity University, Lucknow campus and Institute for Career Studies at the Edu Leaders Conclave. On 28 January 2017, Amity University, UP Lucknow campus, among 30 principals from all over India. He has been honored and awarded the Rashtra Nirmata Samman. That is the Puruskar. This was in 217, Best Principal Award by Parivar Milan Rashtriya Samajak Jagaran Kendra on 8 September 2018. The Board of Management of the Venus International Foundation, based on the ILCA 2019 Expert Committee report and Apex Committee recommendations, awarded Mr. John Bagul with Excellence in School Education and ICSC for the contribution and achievement as the principal of the institution on 2nd November 2019. He has been awarded by Devang Mehta National Education Award for the category of Education Leadership Award on 11th November 2019. A token of appreciation from NIFI for all the good work done during the COVID-19 pandemic to help the society on 25th July 2020. He has been awarded with Dr. Radhakrishnan Award 2020 for outstanding contribution to the field of education on 5th September 2020 from Voice Online. So I think it really needs an applaud. So thank you so much for joining, sir. And before we continue further, I would request Mr. Gupta has now rejoined us. I would request Mr. Gupta to please say something in welcome for our eminent speakers. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome all of you on this occasion on behalf of the institution. Please carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your motivation. It is due to your motivation and the proactive management that you are able to do these programs.
Team effort.
Yes, of course, sir. Thank you. So now, Mr. Bagul, all over to you. So please tell us, what do you think about this topic, your thoughts on the topic, and then we can discuss later.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, that's the first question we ask everyone on all these webinars. So thank you so much, Mrs. Suman Sood, for having me on this panel to speak my views on the right school. I thank Mr. Gupta for inviting me on this panel too. And good evening to all the teachers and parents and all those who are listening in here. Selecting the right school for your child is a very, very important decision. And that is a decision where many parents get confused. First of all, I would just briefly speak about around 8 to 10 points which parents have to keep in mind. And you have briefly covered some of the most important points in your introduction. First of all, research. Do excellent research on the type of school that you'd like your child to go to. And the research involves how is the school portrayed on social media, what is their web page, what have you heard about the school, hearsay. Do you know any parents or do you have any friends whose children are studying in a particular school? When you live in a complex, you speak to others, speak to your friends about feedback that you can get from where their children are studying. So research is of different types, and I'm sure parents are doing that very well. Second point that one must come to is location, location, location. It's very important to see the location for your child, because location will determine, as your child is growing, about the time travel and about how accessible is the school from your place. You have to decide whether you want your child to travel half an hour in a bus journey, or do you have own private car. So there are lots of things that one needs to look at when you look at location. It's not necessary. Of course, in our state, there's so many other states where it's important that you get admitted to a school which is within your vicinity or geographic location. In our state, we are not following that rule. That rule is also very strictly followed in the US, and that's how the rates vary with respect to the presence of a good school in the location. And that's a very important factor that parents can keep in mind, because the child gets unduly stressed out with respect to travel time taken. After location, you look at the next important point is the how would you compare a new school vis-a-vis a, a heritage school. There are schools which are there for a lot of years, which have been present, which have been proving themselves. Would you trust a new school? Why would you trust a new school? On what basis would you trust a new school? What are the factors? What is there? So when you have a new school in front of you, you have to look at the management. Obviously, for both schools, whether it's an old school or a new school, you look at the management. How is the management? Is the management capable of, does the management have different educational institutes across the city? Are they involved in education? If they are not involved in education, have they got a responsible head at the helm of affairs? Does the management and the principal know what it is to run a good school? You have to look at the antecedents of the head of a school if you're looking at a new school, because you need to entrust your child to that school. Then you go on to the staff. After you look at the management, you look at the staff. Is the teacher training program happening in that school? You can get feedback about a school from the children and their parents who are attending that school. Those children can give feedback whether the teachers are good, they're not good, there's some problems. How accessible is the school? Accessibility is a very, very important factor. When I speak about accessibility, I'm referring to, are your concerns taken care of? Would you be able to interact with the teachers at regular intervals? How frequent are the parent teacher meetings? How many, who is there to listen to your concerns? What is the demarcation done for children who are coming in at an earlier level? Again, when you're looking at a young kid of 2.5 year old going to a school, deciding a school, ideally, I feel it's best that the child is going to a preschool within the vicinity where the child is not subjected to a lot of stress. A preschool which has trained, qualified teachers to carry out all the training required for your child during the age of 2.5 years to 5.5 years. This is a very crucial factor. If you're looking at putting your child directly into a large school, K to 12 school, then you have to look at what is the attention given in this K to 12 school on the pre-primary area. How much focus is there? Do they treat it as an independent unit? Are they caring? Are they sharing their values? Are they giving good values to the children? Are the teachers well trained for the pre-primary, or are they only focusing on the upper level to see that the board results are good? So this requires serious consideration. The next point that one would move to is what are the academic results of the school? Obviously, we do want our child to do well, but at the same time, we must understand, irrespective of the academic results of a school, one has to pay attention to what is my child. How well do I know my child? Parents of that age group should understand that does my what is my child's learning style. Does my child interact well by listening to music or listening with music? Because parents should be aware now of the learning styles that are present. What is the pedagogy being followed? How do teachers teach? Do they have different levels of teaching at different classes? Is it just going to focus on rote learning? Is it more on building skills? Is it following a type of learning where the child is involved in experiential learning? Are schools encouraging experiential learning? Are children allowed to carry out an experiential learning can start from a very young age. There's so many things that can be done with children for experiential learning. Or is it just right on chalk and talk methodology? Does that school encourage children to go for tuitions, or does the school encourage children to stay back or have some special help from teachers itself? Then you go on. Then you go on. Remember, I've not yet come to the board. I'm not speaking yet about the board. I've spoken about the location. I've spoken about the management. I've spoken about the training and the type of teachers. I've spoken about the child. What requirements does your child have? Then, as ma'am had rightly pointed out earlier, then one could look at the infrastructure. Now, remember, we are in West Bengal, and what better place to think about education than Shantiniketan, right out there in the open under the trees? Learning can happen anywhere. But when one looks at infrastructure, one need not get carried away by fancy buildings. Please remember, one has to be looking at things very crucially, because how well is the child taken care of obviously is much more important than just a glamorous building. Is the infrastructure safe and secure? Obviously, in today's time and age, we are looking at security, we are looking at security cameras, we are looking at the safety, we are looking at a number of female class 4 employees. If we have a girl child, we are looking at the safety of a girl child as vis-a-vis. Of course, every child is important, but we do need a school to have enough and sufficient female class 4 employees to be there in your washrooms. So this all comes under infrastructure with respect to safety and security, because safety and security becomes an important part of infrastructure. If the cameras are there, if there is easy accessibility, if there are people who are watching the children, not into washrooms, but at least on the campus, on the grounds, people are aware who's coming, who's going. That's a very important factor. Then we move on to maybe the board that you want for the child. Remember, I'm being a bit controversial here, or extremely controversial, because people do put the board right on the top, and they feel that first I see the board and then I see which school, which are the CBSE schools, which are the CISC schools, or which are the international board schools or state board school. I would say that the board actually does not matter. If you are, your child is going to be taken, your child has to excel in the environment, in the learning pool that you're going to put your child in. You may put your child in the best ICSE school or the best CBSE school, but if your child is going to flounder out there and be rudderless without support, then what is the use of putting your child in the so-called best school in the city? You may have paid a lot and you may have gone through a lot of trouble to put your child in a XYZ school. But that's why I brought in the board right at the bottom of my list. And I do tell parents, CBSE, ICSE, all these years in my 32 years plus of teaching, I've been telling parents the board does not matter. My child has to excel in whatever academics, because you may be from a state board, and of course we've had so many great educationists who have done from a state board, and we can never put down a board saying this board is best and that board is bad. And there are merits and demerits to every board. Whether an international board, why kids do not go abroad from Indian boards? Are Indian boards substandard? Nothing like that. Nothing is substandard. Merits and demerits. And once you decide, after all those points that are mentioned, you also have to keep in mind the finance. You may be keen on an international board, or even if you have an Indian board, what is the monthly requirement that I need to shell out for my child? Is it worth paying so many lakhs for my child's education if my child is not going to have a say in the matter, if my child is not going to be taken care of? What is the teacher student ratio? how how many kids in a class? Will my child go to the best reputed school which is well known but have 60 to 80 kids in a section? Do I want my child to be in a rat race, or do I want my child to be well taken care of, well groomed? What is the cost vis-a-vis the distance, vis-a-vis the security? How am I going to compare? You have to trust your instincts to a certain extent as a parent. When you interact with the people, am I allowed to take a tour of the school? Am I allowed to see what would be the environment of the school when I'm putting my child in? How is the head of the school? Have I been greeted warmly? What is the culture of the school? How good are they in interacting, or are they high up there that they wouldn't have time even to interact with you? So the culture of the school plays a very important role. When I speak about culture, it's about human behavior, it's about the human resources, it's about what are the values being taught in the school. We are all very proud of our Indian heritage. We definitely want our children to learn good values. And how much of this is being reflected in the classrooms?
Bagul sir, Bagul sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. No, no, I can't unmute. He has to unmute himself. Man, you're on. Man, you're on.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
So what were you saying, Vikram, earlier? Sorry to say you said something. I thought my time is over.
Exactly, sir. Actually, your voice was not coming. You got muted.
Okay. So, oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, sir.
But I think I've spoken quite a lot, Suman Sood ma'am. And if there's anything, we can have questions from the audience. So I don't know where my voice got muted, but if there's anything, I can always repeat. But I think that's in a nutshell. I tried to compare. There's a lot to be done for parents, a lot of research to be done. Thank you, ma'am.
Director, ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
This is a problem. Okay. Am I audible now?
Perfect, ma'am.
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am. You are. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, so this, what you said, why is the echo started again? Hello? Hello? हाँ विक्रम बोलो क्या है?
Ma'am, you're muted.
Utpalda,
Yes.
your two devices are on. So can you please switch off your one? You have logged on from two.
Am I?
Yeah.
Just a moment.
If you can switch off your mobile, logged on from laptop, that would be good enough. Or anyone. Because otherwise there's no echo. Technology has its good points as well as its disadvantages. Hello? Hello?
Is it better now?
Yeah. Do I have to leave and join? Vikram?
Yes, ma'am. Let Utpal speak.
Hello, am I audible?
So very faint.
What do I do about it? I mean, am I audible now?
So please begin.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I only heard, I could not hear the last of what Mr. Bagul said. Has the phone been, is everybody audible now? Or rather, can everybody find others audible?
We can hear you, sir.
I beg your pardon?
We can hear you, sir.
All right. Madam Moderator, shall I begin whatever I have to say? Hello? Hello?
Director, ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
Madam Moderator,
Okay.
shall I start? Have you done? Because I haven't heard anything
Just
over the last
1 minute.
10 minutes. I have not heard anything at all.
Okay. 1 minute. I have to end. Hello.
Yes, I was hearing Mr. Bagul with great attention, and suddenly I find he was off. And ever since that, I haven't heard anything apart from your wonderful hello.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Chatterjee.
No, you are so absorbing, so engrossing. I wish I'd heard till the end.
Before we start, I just wanted to summarize points of what Mr. Bagul said. So he gave us a very vivid description of what parents should be looking for. And I totally agree with him when he talks about location. Location is absolutely very important if the school is near the residence. So imagine the hassle that is avoided going to school, coming back to school. These little children, they are not even 2 years old when they join play schools. Now, the toddler group is just about 2 years old. So if we are subjecting them to 1 hour or 2 hours of travel just to have a 2-hour session in a preschool, I think it's criminal. So we should look at the location first, and there is safety, hygiene, infrastructure, teacher development. In fact, teacher development and teacher welfare, these are the points which are extremely important. And if a school is looking at the development and the teacher welfare, then I think those teachers will be one of the best teams. You can't have anything else but excellence out of them. And the passion that is there in them will be motivated even more. So also the CPD, the continuous professional development of teachers, this is also important, just to hire best teachers and then train teachers and then let it be, and you forget about that. You have to handhold them and you have to make them move on in the world with in their spheres, making them better experts in their own fields. So these are some of the points which I felt are important. We can go back to some more points later on. So thank you, Mr. Bagul. We'll ask you questions further when we have more. And before that, I would, as I said, I love introductions, and especially I love to introduce people like Mr. Bagul and Mr. Chatterjee. Now, I'm really honored and feeling very privileged that they have agreed to be on our panel. And Utpalda, I never ever miss your WhatsApp posts or your Facebook posts, or when I see you in any gathering, it is like, really glued to what you say. Because a speaker like you, who has been a TED speaker, not only that, just being a TED speaker is not enough, but having the right viewpoints and putting it across properly to people, I think that is something which is so very commendable. So I'm just going to read out. Utpalda has sent me a very small write-up, but I know there is lots and lots to it. But anyway, I would read it out. Utpal Chatterjee, among the most acclaimed of Indian journalists and public speakers, Mr. Utpal Chatterjee, who was until recently the Honorable Sheriff of Calcutta and its first citizen, has interviewed 21 heads of state, 9 Nobel laureates, and traveled with Indian prime ministers as part of their respective media delegations. Having done his fellowship in journalism from Oxford, he has traveled abroad on other official assignments more than 50 times across all the continents except Africa and Australia. He is on the panel of experts of BBC London. Earlier, he worked for several leading Indian national newspapers and journals, in addition to many international and national recognitions. He has recently been recognized for being an outstanding Indian for his contribution to enriching national values, public service, and international journalism by NIFI, that is the National Integration Forum of India. In December 2018, he was recognized as the Legend of Bengal by the All India Human Rights Council. Incidentally, he was the chief guest at the Peace Builders Conference at Kuala Lumpur in 2019. Recently, he featured as a speaker at the very prestigious TED Talk Forum. The other day, he has, along with former Vice President of India, Mr. H. Ansari, and former National Security Advisor and West Bengal Governor, Mr. M. K. Narayan, been invited on the select panel of distinguished visiting professors by the St. Xavier's University, Newtown, Kolkata. Recently, he was bestowed with the National Education Leadership Award for Lifetime Achievement Award for excellence in being the ideal Indian citizen. And I'll add a little more to that. Utpalda is a very passionate Rotarian also. So it's through the Rotary platform, actually, I first got introduced to you, Utpalda, personally. Of course, I had heard about you. I had heard you speaking. But when I was the president of my club, and that time when it was proposed that we call you as a speaker, and I wondered, I said, for 20 or 25 people in the audience, will a personality like that come and address us? But you so happily agreed, and then your humility won us all, and the way you spoke and the way you gave us those the right tips. And then later on, when I was the DIR, the Interact, I was the DICC. So at that time, I remember at the training session, you specially came and you addressed our young audience. So this is something which is, I think, wonderful about you. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the wonderful, your inputs. I'm sure we are all going to hear, and we are sitting glued to listen to you, sir. Utpalda, please unmute yourself. Utpalda, please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Can't hear you. Unmute yourself, please. No, you're not audible. Please unmute yourself. Utpalda, please unmute yourself. Utpalda, we can't hear you. Can you please unmute yourself? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. You're still not unmuted. You will see a button below in the panel. We still can't hear you, Utpalda. Can you please again unmute yourself? There is a button at the panel with a micro. Okay, फिर से join करेंगे. Okay. I think Utpalda, can you please disconnect and join again? Just end the call and join again. We can't hear you. Hello? Oh, you have entered, but just press the microphone and make it unmute. There's a button that, no, you will see at the bottom, panel. Okay. I know, I realize, of course, sir. think while Sir is joining, he has joined, but went off again. We still can't hear you. That unmute button. If you bring your cursor down, then you will find that panel coming up, and there is that button there, no, the microphone button. Just press on that. You should be able to do it. Can you see the button now? Okay, press on it, please.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. Thank God for small mercies.
I swear.
I'm really very sorry. This is there has to be a first in everyone's life, and that is what has happened. I'll try to make it briefer than I had thought. Madam Moderator, my good friend Mr. Bagul, Mr. Gupta, the very esteemed teachers, and of course, the people who are most concerned, the parents. I don't have any idea how many parents are present, but if there are a few, I suppose that's all right.
There are some here, and there are many which are there on the Facebook and the YouTube.
Excellent.
I'm sure they're all going to benefit.
At the very outset, I must say, I was listening to Mr. Bagul very carefully. He's a professional. He knows what he's talking about. And for a person like me, I found every bit of what he said making sense. Well, sense and sensibility are needed on both fronts. After a child is born, and when he attains the grand, ripe age of 2 and a few months, he is a bundle of energy. And you can also understand, many have learned to talk, but more importantly, they have so much to do. That is when parents are extremely keen that this amount of energy, and who knows, so much of talent, ought to put to good use. And hence comes the need of people in a good school, a school that is bothered about protecting him, his interests, and realizing that with every month as he grows, he becomes one who gradually enters the world of curiosity on all fronts. You do need very trained, very patient, very tolerant teachers. And I have absolutely no doubt at any level, right from nursery till the year when the child is ready to graduate to the university, the teacher is indispensable. I have nothing but respect and sometimes awe for these teachers who not only work so hard at school, at work, but even at home. They carry so much of work, both, at home, even while traveling. And imagine many of these teachers have to run their families. They have to fulfill so many responsibilities. and yet they have to remain cool, calm, loving, understanding. Amazing. I think, this is not a hall, but if this were a hall, I would have requested every person present to the last person standing to stand and give all teachers a great ovation. And of course, you have the captain leading this team of wonderful teachers. The credit of the captain should never, ever be discounted. They lead by example. To come back to the young student, I remember As You Like It of Shakespeare, Act 2, Scene 7, when melancholy Jacques, or Jacques, as in French, had spoken of the 7 ages of man, and there was one point, when he says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy, unwillingly to school. Whining schoolboy, unwillingly to school. Well, the boy may still be whining. He still may be unwilling after having been pampered with so much of love at home. But then he enters another world where he starts gradually realizing that a different perspective has taken over. He takes things seriously. He finds that his skills are being honed. He finds he's capable of doing wonderful things. And it's the teachers who make him do it. I agreed with Mr. Bagul. The location is important as to where a child ought to find admission. As long as people are serious about what they're doing, the child is in good hands. And Mr. Bagul said it all. He needs a great deal of care. That's the time when he needs care. Because within a couple of years, the child would volunteer to take care of people who are younger. That is a psychological instinct. But whatever it is, I would request the parents, each and every one of them, not to view a prospective school as a brand. You wear branded shirt, branded trousers, you will go for branded phones, you go for branded, laptops, everything you go for brand. But I do remember there was a time when a boy or a girl discovered the other boy or girl doing so well. They would look at what he or she is wearing, or how he or she walks, how he or she talks, and they try to first imitate and then emulate. So branding is not so important to the child, but branding is very important to the child. Mr. Bagul spoke of the people who can opt for lakhs and lakhs, depending on they're looking ahead for a good board. I'm a little bored talking about boards. The board is not important. Do remember, if Mr. Bagul could speak of studying in Shantiniketan under trees, that was a concept of Rabindranath Tagore. Well, we have other concepts. If we look back, Look at some of the greatest men, not just in India, in history of mankind. They never went for branded schools. Where did Satyajit Ray study? Where is so many people, including somebody from Bengal, who stood at first in the IAS, etc. exam not too long ago? They were in just ordinary schools. But in competitive exams, look at what they did. I mean, you don't need to talk so much about Ray being a creative genius, but let's talk of so many people who are doing so well, splendidly well. And they may not get 99.9. In our time, if we had fever, that would show 99.9. But today, a girl or a boy at the end of the day finds he's got 100 out of 100 in 6 different papers. Times have changed. But that doesn't mean I'm going to compromise on my values. The values that are first put into you when you are at home, and the values that are you imbibe from school, from your teachers, from your principal. The values that tell you how to be conscientious, how to listen to the voice inside you. The voice that tells you, no, you are not going to do this. And the voice that tells you, yes, what's keeping you back? Go ahead, take a plunge, do it. So take up challenges. A lot depends on how you groom the child. And as the child evolves into a young man or a young lady, much depends on the grooming. Knowledge comes, with knowledge comes a little wisdom. But do remember, the grooming with values is what really matters. At the very early stages, I do understand and realize that it is imperative that good care be taken for all children. But a lot depends on what your aims are. Forget the brand, be concerned about the child. Think of the teachers and what the teachers say. And to all parents, I must tell you that I'm more than concerned when I hear they would rather go and teach the teacher how to teach. It's like somebody going to the doctors, an excellent doctors, and telling them how to go ahead and do the operation. Would they? Can they? Oh, they dare not. You see, you have to give everybody a space. You see, you have to give everybody, you have to be understanding enough to leave your child in the hands of those that you trust and look up to. I remember before I attained the age of 6, I was in a small, unheard of school that kept us occupied. It was not very well known. It is still not well known. But it did its work adequately. And when I went to a very good public school, I do remember my standard 1 to standard 3 just zipped past without any effort. It was thanks to those who had really prepared me to face these challenges, face any situation with a smile. And that is what parents, that is what teachers, principals, everybody would look forward to in all children that they have taken charge of. At the end of the day, they want to feel proud. They would feel proud when they know they're doing something good because the children are doing them proud. Today, all those who have been successful ought to remember is the teachers who really helped you establish a base from which you could take off in a manner where you had only the universe to conquer. Well, my little talk, was not really meant to motivate. I'm not here to motivate Mr. Bagul, who has proved himself the world over. My job is not to prove anything to Mrs. Sood, who's doing such a splendid job. My job is not to keep reminding teachers why they're so esteemed. My job is just to open the eyes of the parents a little more. Let them also understand if they themselves are successes in their respective fields of human endeavor, don't ask for the moon. Let your child grow up like a normal child, well-groomed, with values, and let the child give him space, give him time, let the person do you proud in his or her own way. Finally, let us all remember, in the beginning, all children do not shine or sparkle. Some of them they don't all come first or maybe the fourth or fifth at school, but when time comes at the university, they bloom and they blossom. There are so many people, many of them abroad, some of them in India, who are doing so well, and in school, they're barely heard of. That too ought to teach you a lesson or two. So I, an incurable optimist, well, occasionally I think of the worst, but I always hope for the best. Madam Moderator, Mr. Bagul, Mr. Gupta, the very esteemed teachers, and the most important section of the audience this afternoon, our dear, respected parents. To each and every one of you, thank you ever so much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you, sir, for all the wonderful inputs that you gave us. We really were glued to every word that you were saying. And, it's the way of saying not only what you are saying, it's also the way you say that makes a lot of difference. And talking about your childhood and letting us have a glimpse into your experiences is surely something which I think all of us will cherish, and it will give us motivation and it will give us the lesson to move on further in life. Because as you said, the small school that you went to and this school later on became the stepping stone. And from that stepping stone, you just whisked past the classes 1 to 3. So it is thanks to those teachers, thanks to that school, which although may not have been a brand school, but it did leave an impact on you, that kind of an impact, which is needed for a child. So that is what our whole purpose is, and that is what our whole idea about preschool, about any kindergarten is. And as an early childhood association mentor and also as a very passionate early childhood educator, I do understand that the importance of teachers and the importance of the passion that needs to be there in the teachers when they are teaching these little children. So it is not only the curriculum, it is not only the pedagogy, of course, that makes a lot of difference, but it is, again, how we give that curriculum to the children, how we give that pedagogy to the children, which is important. And as now NEP has also stressed upon this, that it is, we should move away from rote learning and move on to more active activities. So we also, I think, Mr. Chatterjee, you joined late. So we have our principal of BDMI. I think you have met her before, Mrs. Vijaya Chaudhary. So, ma'am, there she is. So, in fact, when I told her that we want to have...
Good evening, sir. If you remember, we had met at
But of course, how can one forget you?
And your speech was, people were spellbound as usual. Like Suman ma'am actually introduced you very, very truly, that actually your each and every word counts actually. So leave aside a sentence. Each word has a meaning, and we are indeed honored to have you and hear you again. So thank you so much for your wonderful words of wisdom. We are indeed honored to have you here. Yes, Suman ma'am, please. Thank you so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you, ma'am. So,
Mr. Bagul there, or has he left?
Yes,
No, I'm very much here. I'm here. I'm listening to you. I'm hypnotized. I'm yet enjoying the flavor of your speech and the way you spoke so well.
And I think very recently, Mr. Bagul, the award that you got was given away by Mr. Chatterjee, right?
Yes, Mr.
At one
Chatterjee.
function. I saw it on the Facebook and later got it confirmed also. So that is what a coincidence. So wonderful having two wonderful speakers here with us. So great opportunity for you parents, great opportunity for teachers also to ask questions. And if you have anything in mind, please do ask. I can't see any questions in the chat box. Okay, I have.
Oh, somebody will come up and ask questions.
Yeah, they will. Meanwhile, I think I have a question. Like Mr. Bagul and also Mr. Chatterjee did say that it is not the infrastructure that needs to be stressed upon. Of course, a few points need to be seen, like safety, hygiene, and other things which are important for the child. But there is a mindset. You have also mentioned about the brand. There is a mindset with the parents. So no matter how far the school is, no matter what kind of infrastructure they may get, and it is just sometimes just the name or the status in the society that urges them to put their children in that particular school. So if you could address this thought, how, what parents need to do to avoid this?
Mr. Chatterjee, would you like to take that?
No, Mr. Bagul. I take all the inspiration after you speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Ma'am, I don't think there's anything that can be given as advice to parents, because as you rightly pointed out, it's the status in society. When I go for a kitty party, or if I'm in a gathering, I do not accept the fact that my child needs to be taken care of in a special environment, or there's something close by where my child will flourish. I'm more keen on saying I have got my child admitted to so and so school. It is my prestige in society which needs to be looked at. Mr. Chatterjee rightly pointed out that parents need to also look at the vision that is there for the child. But very often we have parents imposing, I did not get to do that, so you have to fulfill my dreams. This is something which is absolutely wrong. So when we speak about the school and selection of school, it all boils down to, am I doing justice to my child? Am I going to be confident enough to speak in society? I do not care about the brand. I do not care about it being an unknown school. I care more for my child's future. And I'm speaking with experience when you also deal with children with special needs, and there are schools, which special schools, special organizations which will take care of such children. But again, it's a matter of society and perception. Oh, I don't want my people to know that my child goes to a special school. So irrespective of the fact that an inclusive school may not offer all the requirements for your child as compared to a special school. So the mindset and the perception, a parent has to be courageous and bold enough that I will go against all norms and yet do what is best interest for my child. My child is the core, my child is the center. So it will take a long time to change the mindset. I'm sure change is coming, change will happen, but it's not so easy. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sood.
Thank you. Thank you for treating it so well. If Mr. Chatterjee, would you like to add upon that?
No, I think Mr. Bagul said it all and said it all very, very well indeed. If I were a parent or in the shoes of the parent, indeed, I'll be bothered about the best interests of my child. And the best interest of my child need not be restricted to looking for a good brand. It is to see to the welfare of my child, his capabilities, what he can do, what he cannot do. After all, he's a human. And within the circumstances prevailing, with whatever is happening around us, if he shows encouraging signs of an eagerness to learn and proceed as he ought to, I think that's a very healthy sign. Because with that, if he retains that, then he is going to ensure that this particular tendency gathers steam and he will proceed fast, the action will be swift, and the teachers too would know that the child is doing well. The parents too would. But as I said, parents must never expect the moon. And if they did get the moon, my big question would be, where would they find the space to accommodate the moon? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So one more question I have in mind, like, we talk about the age for preschool and for nursery class especially. So now NEP has also brought the nursery age to 3 years, 3 years plus. So, but of course, the play school is a very informal setup where children can just come and play and learn from their environment. So it is not that something they are being taught. So how far do you agree with this, that this is the right structure or the right statement, or is there anything that you feel should be done differently?
To start off, I may say that I've noticed in West Bengal, in Calcutta, I see a lot of children also being homeschooled by their parents. I understand that homeschooling is catching on in a very big way. Now, there have been lots of theories about the right age to start a child off in education. And we know, and especially from my time, we had to start school at the age of 5 plus or 6. As an individual who has crossed the age of 50, I do not think we need to really push a child into what a child cannot do, because I feel that very often parents do argue with institutions regarding if a child falls short by 1 month or 2 months or even a week. they will still insist on pushing the child to the next level. And I find it difficult why parents cannot understand that pushing your child beyond the ability is like something transplanting a 1000cc engine into a 80cc vehicle. It it is not compatible. But in the long run, it definitely would be a pressure on the child. So coming back, of course, to your question about the right age, it varies from state to state. I do understand that. I do understand the education policies saying that we need to start at a specific age. As long as homeschooling goes on, and then they need to go on if it is possible, and they need to move on to a very good um, preschool. There's so many excellent preschools in the city. I'm sure the earlier you catch them young, there's talent, but do not insist on pushing a child from one level to the next. If a child is not coping, and I've seen some progressive parents who say, my child is not coping, even if the age factor may be there, I will still allow my child to repeat a certain class, because if the foundation is not strong, then the building cannot be supported. And this foundation has to be built only if the child is well taken care of with its abilities in the right platform at the right entry level. So I've not really answered your question, ma'am, because there are lots of factors into it with respect to what the child requires and what. So it's a very standardized method that we have, but the Montessori system or the Waldorf system that we have, where they're mixed age groups, the children are being together, learning. So there are different education patterns. I think we just go with what is the best uniformity, where sometimes the child falls through the gaps. And that's a danger. If my child is falling through a gap, who is there to take care of my child within this system that has been generated?
Very true. Thank you so much. That was really well put. So, now, one question to Mr. Chatterjee. Mr. Chatterjee, what would be your rounding off statement, advice to our parents regarding preschooling and regarding this importance of preschooling, of course?
Well, first of all, I must tell Mr. Bagul, I could not agree more with what he just said. First of all, this is while I'm trying to answer your question as well. The parents know very well, because there's so many parents and so many children, and they know very well. They can see their child. There are some who take a little time. There are some who are impatient. They're such bundles of energy. They're so full of questions. They're so full of curiosity. And they need so much of time. And the parents give up. They feel this is the right time for the child to be taken care of by people who, in their own professional, well-trained, well-honed skills, could do the child a great deal of good by ensuring that all that energy, all the curiosity, everything else could be taken care of, and taken care of with a sense of responsibility. Because there is no end to a child asking questions. What if a child were to come and pester you with the old question, why is the sky blue? Well, that's a different thing. The sky is gradually changing its color, even as we speak of climate control. But then, Madam Moderator, could I get the last part of your question?
My last part of the question was like, what would be your advice to parents regarding the preschooling? What they should actually learn as a summing up of all your points in
Well,
one
yes.
statement.
The one simple thing that I would like to ask the parents, not simply for the preschool, but for the rest of the school, is to have enough faith in the school that has an excellent principal leading an excellent team of teachers. If the child does not come up gradually with the marks they expect, they should not compare the child with what they were at that age. You know, I came in the first 3 in the state. That is wrong. You shouldn't compare a child with yourself. And you get angrier and angrier. And anger is always the worst enemy of man. And then, gradually, the anger knows no bounds. Then they go to the school, try and find other similar parents with a similar bent of thinking. And then they want to take the teachers on. And that starts a situation that is thoroughly avoidable. Please, the teachers have enough on their plate. Let them do the job. Have full faith. I remember one thing, Madam Moderator, with your permission, to just tell you that the school that I was in, there were only 2 meetings with parents in the full 10 years. The first and the second standard, we had a parents' night. It was a parents' evening, really, when you could bring your father and mother, or in my case, only my mother would come. And I remember all the teachers, all the other people would come across. It was a high tea, all smiles. And in those 2 years, they had been able to find out the major strengths that they kept in mind and the weaknesses that they were working on. And it was a frank, very candid, and a very friendly, most important, a very friendly chat. After that, there was never, ever a parent-teacher meeting, ever. And let me tell you, every classmate of mine went on to do their respective parents proud and happy without any interference. I was in a school where people from all over the country came, whether it's from Kashmir, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand as it's now called, or coming down to places like Coimbatore, or even, say, Madras. I mean, all over the country, you had so many people, and it gave us such a good perspective of the whole country. Our class was a mini India, as were so many other classes ahead of us and behind or younger than us. So that was a very healthy, very good, and excellent upbringing. And the conscience was always sticking. The little voice telling us what to do, what not to do, and to take the plunge of a good challenge. Well, I think the teachers would want their children to be brought up similarly. And let me tell you, Madam Moderator, your school, Mr. Bagul's school, and I can think of so many other schools as such dedicated, esteemed teachers. And there are so many principals who try to match up to the principal of your school, Mr. Bagul. There are so many people who I'm sure would want to emulate Mr. Bagul. And this is a very healthy, good sign. And the parents, I don't think, would have any scope left to complain or grumble or to say anything that we would deem as not so desirable. Parents too want the best interest of the child. Parents too would understand. Surely they would understand. And the parents who are listening to this talk of ours that started at 4 o'clock, I'm sure they must have realized by this time that their time, all this time, has not gone wasted, not one bit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well said. And I am just going to surmise a few points that as our Early Childhood Association has brought forward, we did a campaign for having a Right Start School campaign. And in that, most of the points have been very rightly enumerated by Mr. Bagul and also by Mr. Chatterjee. So I'm happy that our schools are doing what we had campaigned for. So these are some of the things. One is that do not enroll your child in nursery class before the age of 3. That had been said earlier. But play school, yes. Play school can be from 2 years, or even from, if you have a mother toddler class, you can even have it a little early, because we know 0 to 8 years is the age when children need a lot of inputs. Then also don't just select a board, select a school. That very rightly Mr. Bagul pointed out so well. It's not about high or low fees. If fees are high, check how will they give you that money's worth. I think that is important to know, whether you're getting your value for money. Then it's not about, then also check if all the teachers are qualified, and not only qualified, they have the right welfare, and the school looks after them well also. Then ensure that the school has done background verification of all the staff, and ensure the school has a discipline policy. Will they shout, lift, scream at your child? Ensure that the school has a zero tolerance for abuse to children. I think this is something which is very important. We all need to look at that. Say no to a school that interviews you or your child. Children cannot take the stress of interviews at that young age, and a school that does not know what it is, know that is not child-centric. And then check the distance from your home to school. Mr. Bagul very rightly pointed about that. Then give the school your 5 senses test. Ears. If you can hear children's voices when you enter the school, then you know it's a good school. And eyes, if you look at the display and you see mixture of art, drawing, worksheets, then good. If only worksheets or teacher work is there, then it is not good. That means the child's work is not up there. Then smell the toilets. If they smell bad, means children will avoid going and will stop drinking water. Then taste this talk, ask the questions about the qualifications, background checks and policies, touch all the surfaces to see if they are sharp or if they have dust. Then CCTV, are there any there in the important areas? Who monitors CCTV cameras? How often is the recording monitored? And all those questions. And so these were some of the 10 points that were enumerated. So I think they've been very well covered. So thank you so much. I would request now Dipasha.
Madam Moderator, I just want to, if Mr. Bagul permits, I would like to conclude with one tiny, very tiny anecdote, if I may.
Please do.
Yes, please.
You see, when I was in the first standard, till the third standard, roughly age 6 to 8, whenever we used to bump into our huge principal, he was an Irish American. We would say very politely, "Good morning, Father," or "Good afternoon," or "Good evening." He would always look at us, break into a wide grin, and then say very slowly, "Remember always do good, be good, think good. No matter what time of the day, no matter how many times in a day, we heard it year in and year out. During the university, what he said began registering. Today, it has fully registered. Do good, be good, think good. You know, that got into our system. And to be worthy members of a good society and a great nation like India, that advice is so precious for each and every boy and girl. That's what I would like to say. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you to everyone present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you, Mr. Bagul. I would request Ms. Bipasha Roy Chaudhary. Bipasha, she is our head of branch, Garia branch, BD Memorial. So please present the formal vote of thanks. Bipasha?
Propose the vote of thanks today. It has been a wonderful.
Return your video. Yes, thank you.
It has been a wonderful and enlightening experience for all of us. I would like to thank Mr. John and Shubhagu sir and Mr. Utpal Chatterjee sir for addressing. I'm sure that we will be able to take these inputs and apply them in our areas of work. And I'm also sure that it will rightfully counsel the prospective guardians to select the institution for their work and emphasize on our specific merits for choice. I thank our principal ma'am, Ms. Vijay Chaudhary, for joining us. I also thank our director ma'am, Mrs. Suman Sood, for introducing our eminent guest speakers and moderating the webinar today. And nevertheless, I would like to thank all the teachers, parents, and all the participants for joining us. My special thanks, of course, always goes to Mr. Vikram Sharma, our IT head, for ably arranging the technology platform. So with this, today's webinar comes to an end. It has been really a wonderful experience for all of us. We have been enriched, and I wish all of you to be safe and healthy. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
be
so
with
much.
Super Strategy. Thank you all.